Welcome to the Electric Playground. Today on the show, we get a new look at the next James Bond and Pixar movies.
Plus, we have a normal-sized look at the online shooter, Gigantic.
And then we infiltrate the set of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation with Tom Cruise.
You ready?
Also coming up, Steve and Raju are here to drink from a massive chalice. Jose and Ben get in a few rounds of golf with Rory McIlroy and much more today on EP Daily. Brought to you by EB Games. I'm your host, Victor Lucas, bringing you the latest in everything cool every single day. Now, my car doesn't have an ejector seat, but it does contain a secret compartment that holds something very deadly. It's called the Rundown. We're getting a better idea of what to expect from the next James Bond movie. Take a look at the latest trailer for Spectre, the 24th film in the 007 franchise. It will see Bond take on the sinister global criminal organization known as Spectre, which first appeared in the 60s Bond movies, all while dealing with some concerning revelations about his past. Judging by the trailer, Spectre appears to be using familiar Bond imagery, ideas, and formulas in sharp contrast to Daniel Craig's first few outings as the character. Many other big franchise movies have been doing the same thing because nostalgia is in these days. Spectre will hit theaters on November 6th. And here's a movie that relies on nostalgia from 65 million years ago. Pixar has released the first full trailer for their next animated adventure, The Good Dinosaur. The film imagines what would happen if dinosaurs had never gone extinct and lived long enough to share the Earth with humans. This, of course, would never actually happen because dinosaurs would have evolved into something else by the time humans showed up. But hey, it's just a kid's movie. The story will focus on an Apatosaurus named Arlo who befriends a human boy named Spot, and together the two learn how to conquer their fears. The Good Dinosaur hits theaters on November 25th. Two more huge movies that are going to make 2015 the best year that movies have ever seen. Here to help me talk about that is Marissa Roberto.
That's a heavy statement.
Well, we've got Star Wars, we had the Avengers already.
All
You know,
right.
this has been a massive year for movies.
You're right, it's true. And these
Jurassic
movies.
World is moving towards the #1 spot.
Yeah, I know.
We didn't
but
like the movie that
to
much.
a lesser extent,
Yeah.
Jurassic World. These two movies, but honestly, speaking of Jurassic World, another dinosaur movie?
Yes.
But this dinosaur movie, I was already welling up watching this thing. I don't even know what's happening, but I know that probably something bad will happen where I will cry. You just assume that might happen.
Pixar is in the feelings business.
They are in the
They made a
feelings.
movie about feelings.
And I got all the feels watching this.
And they understand how to tap into things. They also understand how to create movies that are, appeal to everybody, the kid inside all of us. It's the first time that they've released two movies in the same year, though.
Amazing.
Which is kind of crazy. And you wonder, how they split all of that talent and all of that sort of direction across all of this.
They've already had a hit with Inside Out,
Yeah.
so I can't imagine. I mean, they do have a winning formula here.
Yeah.
They know what makes a good movie,
Yes.
And they've just been on the upswing, so I feel like this is going to be another great one from Pixar.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for Spectre as well.
Well,
and
obviously.
and I'm a huge Bond fan. I love Daniel Craig as James Bond.
I didn't enjoy the last one, really.
I like Skyfall. It was good, but it wasn't as good as Casino Royale.
No, there was too much. It was a little too navel-gazy for me in that one, like too much focusing on like the home base and what was happening there. I didn't like that so much, but
Yeah.
this one, I don't know. I love the trailer because I don't actually know what's happening in the movie, which is something that we've seen a lot in trailers lately. All the attractive women that you see in the movie, you know Bond is going to get with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no spoilers there.
That's one of the, I think, complaints with the thing is
Yeah.
that it's starting to look like it's trying to appeal to the old 60s kind of era
Yeah.
Bond.
Do we know if any of the women will have names like Ivana Humpalot or...
I think they've backed off
okay.
on something like that. I'm okay for the nostalgia factor as well.
Sure.
And Skyfall was the biggest grossing Bond movie ever, so there's a lot to live up
Yeah,
to.
but some people go to movies where they shouldn't actually go to movies, right?
Sure.
We've seen, okay, whatever. Fury
Jurassic
7,
World.
that's all I'm going to say.
And Fury 7. All right. Well, that was some good movie talk, but right now it's time to switch over to video games. We've got a big one for you. It's called Gigantic.
I found the two hugest men on the show floor. It is Thor and Carter. They're from Motiga. They're working on a video game called Gigantic. Thor, I'm going to start with you because your name is just a little bit cooler than Carter's name. Tell me, what's going on in Gigantic?
Hey, so this is actually the first time we've actually been able to bring an Xbox version to the live floor, and we're super excited. Gigantic at its heart is a MOBA, it's a 5v5 shooter, Twitch MOBA, and with a big guardian and some fast-paced action.
Tell me, Carter, why did you guys want to make this game? What makes Gigantic special?
Yeah, so the motivation for the game was actually just to create a really awesome competitive game. There was nothing else beside that. We wanted to make something that's fast-paced, fluid movement, but really what we wanted to do is blend different genres and playstyles and gaming backgrounds and throw them all into one arena and let people battle it out.
What do you do at Motiga that makes Gigantic a better game?
Gotcha. So that's actually a very good question. I'm the streaming community manager over at Motiga. From the ground up, we really want to get in touch with our community and what's good, what feels great. We're so transparent with our company. We really have that Twitch, YouTube. Every single week we have a Twitch stream. Be like, hey, you know what? This is what we're working on. What do you guys think?
What's cool about Motiga and Gigantic is we're really a community-focused company. So we're in alpha right now, and when we're designing the game, it's a heavy influence with the community. So we're constantly talking to people, just trying to make the game better. Thor is talking to people. Yeah. We're just constantly bouncing ideas off our community and trying to make the best game possible for them.
So you have a good relationship with your fans even before the game ships formally, and that relationship, obviously you guys are getting stuff from the fans. Oh, yeah. And this is kind of a new thing, that games are kind of being made as a part of a collective or something. Tell me a little bit more about that process, Thor.
At the end of the day, it's about making a game for them, so they know what's best. They're passionate about it, just as passionate about it, and a lot of the times they're better than us about the game. We're going to be completely honest with each other. We actually flew out a bunch of community coaches out here, and they're hanging out with the crowd, they're hanging out with the audience, and they get the game, they get it on a personal level, and they understand it just as good as we do, and we're so excited because they know they're every step of the way they're giving it that feedback.
Describe for me, Carter, if you will, one unforgettable moment in Gigantic that you've had recently, and tell me what sort of emotion were you feeling at the time?
That's actually not very difficult because our game is all about those dramatic moments. It's a competitive game, and we really try to build that in as a core design pillar. So actually just literally about 10 minutes ago when we were showing our game to the press, we had another one of our character artists playing, and it was a really close game. He was in there, he was playing one of our brawler characters. It was coming really down to the wire, could go either way. He gets a triple kill, his guardian knocks over the enemy guardian, and he's able to go in and finish the game by himself, and it was really awesome. The whole crowd cheered, even people who had no idea what was going on yet, because it's the first time they've ever seen the game, so it was really cool.
I got to ask you guys kind of a personal question, but are you guys both unlockable characters in the game? Thor, you answer.
Yes, we are unlockable skins. And
are you really?
No, not at all.
Because that would be cool, and it's still time to put it in there.
The beta for Gigantic begins this August, and I was really impressed with the size of the booth space that the game had at E3.
Ooh, well, speaking of sizes, we're moving from something gigantic to something massive, because we've got a review of Massive Chalice after this.
Our citizens, understandably, find it hard to trust a giant talking chalice.
Welcome back to EP Daily. Marissa Roberto, where are we going next? Tell me.
Well, Scott C. Jones, we're heading to Toronto because Steve and Raju, they've got a review of Massive Chalice. Now, this is a Double Fine production game that actually had a beta test 6 months ago.
I know, I thought it was still in beta.
No, it's not in beta. The full game is out now. Take it away, boys.
Double Fine is one of those video game developers that, I will always check in on what they're doing. I think that they use humor better than most guys out there, and, they do really some interesting stuff with gameplay. Today we're looking at Massive Chalice, which was a Kickstarter game. It is a turn-based game with a lot of interesting little twists. Obviously, the name comes from, basically, there is a massive chalice, a giant cup that speaks. It has a split personality. It has an old man and a woman in it, and it talks to you.
Our citizens, understandably, find it hard to trust a giant talking chalice.
We are not just a giant talking chalice.
In what meeting did the giant talking cup come up? We should have a giant talking cup that's like a man and a woman, and they kind of like, you're this immortal hero being trained by the talking cup to defend the realm.
And honestly, there's sort of two things going on. Basically, there is turn-based combat where you use these 5 heroes who... This is the other part of the game. There's a 300-year timeline, and you are creating sort of keeps and towers where you appoint a regent and get them married, and they make you babies, and they have heroes.
Let's dumb this down a bit. It's turn-based strategy nested inside a Game of Thrones house lineage simulator, I guess, where you're basically breeding generations of heroes to go into combat to defend your realm against this encroaching darkness called the Cadence. With the guidance of a giant talking cup, you're building castles around the world to house your heroes. You're doing research on like new armor, new weapons, and then you're going into these battles where you're basically fighting these monsters, and every time you win over a territory, you defend it and prolong the bloodlines of your people, and the idea is to go through 300 years in game until the Cadence, the bad guys, the darkness, has been banished.
You know, and it's funny, like the Double Fine wit is sort of there in...
I think it's pretty fully there.
Well,
the
the Chalice. It's the Chalice.
The Chalice.
Basically, it's what the Chalice says, and you know, like it's funny, even after the opening tutorial, like, you know, they're explaining all this keep and the genetic stuff, and it's like, where's the bad guys? It's like, yeah, it took a long time. Here they come now.
But do not despair. You can still command your heroes.
It's that knowing humor, and it's pretty good, but I don't know, it's one of those things that it felt bolted on into the rest of this game that is very cold and serious and doesn't match up to me.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm a huge fan of turn-based strategy games, so I really love that aspect of it. I would get these squads of like 4 archers and an alchemist and just clean up, which is actually a weird thing. It's almost an overpowered combination.
Yeah.
The turn-based battles have become kind of samey by the time you're like 150, 200, 250 years in. But I stuck with the game. I really, played it through the end where you actually defend the Chalice from attack. And I don't know if I would ever play it again, but I really enjoyed the time I spent with it.
I just don't think it really worked, and their strengths aren't at the fore here. I think I wanted more variety in the sort of turn-based battle, and just a little bit, more fun. And again, I found the genetics aspect of it really kind of weird and off-putting.
It sounds like your cup did not runneth over with this game. What are you going to give Massive Chalice?
6.5 out of 10 for me.
I liked it a little more. 7.5 for me.
Thanks, boys. Excellent work. And by the way, for the record, Marissa Roberto's a little tired right now because she was out doing spy things like, oh, I'm a spy.
Okay.
Look at me.
All right.
I'm a beautiful spy.
Anyway, are you done? We're gonna shut that down.
Beautiful spy.
Okay, I'm not sure how you feel about Tom Cruise, but either way, we've got a behind
I like
the. Okay, great. I like him too. We got a behind the scenes of Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation.
The IMF is uniquely trained and highly motivated.
I love making these movies. Originally, I started producing just out of a love of cinema, and I want to learn as much as I can about movies. And particularly with these kind of films, because it's not just action, it's not just suspense. You have a lot of intrigue. I love the spy genre. I love the theme music. And they're a wonderful challenge to make and to invite filmmakers and artists to come in and create this world. I want to entertain an audience. That's what I want to do in whatever film that I'm making. And I'm just happy that audiences find these films entertaining as I do, and I really enjoy making them.
You ready?
The earliest idea from the story is that we didn't want to have an internal rift in the IMF. It felt as though several of the movies had done that, and we didn't want to do that again. At the same time, we knew we had to have some sort of a pressure on the team. You had to have somebody coming down on the IMF, and that was the introduction of the CIA as an element that was creating pressure on the IMF other than the villain. So we knew that was something very early on. The other idea that we knew we wanted to bring a woman into the story who was not a member of the team, but was somehow more of a foil to Ethan than somebody who was subordinate to him.
We've never met before, right?
Follow me. I love Mission Impossible. I've always loved Mission Impossible. And I think why I love it and why I always want to come back to it and see it, I'd never get bored, is that sort of expecting the unexpected. They somehow manage to make the things that we don't think possible. And it's with the highest of technology. You never know what to expect. But every situation will be solved gracefully, with cool music, with gadgets, with brilliant actors. It's just exciting. It's a ride.
How come the CIA has never discovered any intel regarding the syndicate?
Do you want the polite answer or the truth?
The first movie I remember seeing with Tom, where he changed on film. Like you see Tom become, I don't want to say become a man, because it wasn't that he wasn't a man on film, but he becomes a different kind of man. He took those reins of being cool and different. You don't come to the audience comes to you. You become a real action star. Well, there's an integrity to you. There's a depth to you. You don't have to push too hard. You're just there. And he just shows up and everything's there. And that's where Tom is at in his career, He shows up and everything is there on film.
Benji,
Ethan, where are you?
The Syndicate is real.
I was hoping that we'd do another Mission Impossible, having been in 3 and Ghost Protocol. I kind of knew it would happen because Ghost Protocol was such a barnstormer, and I know Tom is very keen on this story. It's obviously been in his life for a long time. To get the call that we were doing another one was very exciting, and you just wait for the script to see if you die or not.
You have your seatbelt on? You asking me that now?
Oh, you know what? I'm really enjoying that Tom Cruise, not so much in his personal life, but, you know, his movies. He's doing pretty well for himself.
All right, that's enough editorial for today. Moving right along, we've got to talk about Rory McIlroy's PGA Tour after these important messages. Welcome back to EP Daily. Here's a little hint where we're going next. It's Jose and Ben with a review of Rory McIlroy's PGA Tour. Why is this hand here?
Rory McIlroy PGA Tour. Tiger Woods' name off, Masters no more. This is all about Rory and the few golfers that they have left on the PGA license. Ben, what do you think of the game?
This is a pretty mediocre golf game. I don't think they want to promote it very hard. I'm surprised at how low quality this is.
I mean, this is one of those things like they did with NHL where they completely underdelivered with their game. I mean, they took a year off. They want to make it like the definitive golf edition game for the next gen. And then it comes out and it's pretty much stripped of all things fun that we know from the Tiger Woods games, like anything but match and stroke play.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of problems here. I mean, it's starting with the fact that you've got 12 golfers, 12 PGA pros in this game. In the last game, Tiger Woods PGA 14, there were 40 golfers. And not only are there only 12 golfers, you have no legends. So Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, they're not in here.
No ladies.
I just think that's embarrassing. Like, you know, they made strides. Like, look, we've got LPGA golfers, and then the next year they're like, oh yeah, forget it. We didn't have time. What's that about?
Take out the Masters, take out the ladies, take out half the courses. Here's the golf game.
12 pros just doesn't do it. And you're right, the courses, there's 8 real-life courses. In the last game, I think there were 20. They've got these fantasy courses, which they've really pushed hard with this video of them hitting a ball through like a battlefield course. Yeah. And it looks cool. You've got like an aircraft carrier beached in the middle of your fairway, but you don't do anything interesting. You still just play a boring round of golf. Like, no power-ups. It's not arcadey. These fantasy courses aren't brand new Hot Shots golf, awesome fireball shots or anything. That's what I think we were expecting out of fantasy courses. They're just boring, straightforward courses that you just play through.
You can play as a soldier, one of the playable characters. They took all the ladies and Masters out, but now you can play as the guy from Battlefield.
Yeah, it's really pretty lame here. The one thing I will grant this game is that the swing mechanics work pretty well. And at the very beginning of the game, you've got this prologue where they let you play as Rory McIlroy. They kind of teach you some of the basics of the game, and then they kind of spit you out into a very quick take on the last US Open. I think they spent more money on Rory McIlroy's face in a video than they did putting more courses and players into the game. It's like, why'd they blow all this cash on this part of the game? I mean, I don't mind the prologue. It's fine. It just feels like they went way too big with it.
And then when you go from a professional golfer like Rory in the tutorial or the prologue, and you're like, I'm going to create my own golfer, which used to be one of the craziest like WWE 2K type amazing features.
With the character creator?
Now she's like, here's 12 faces. I don't know, pick one of those.
Everyone looks terrible. I could not get anybody to look okay in this. They all look weird and strange. And then the pro mode itself is pretty lame. I mean, it can take you through all these different tournaments, and they do one of two things. You can either play every hole, or you could just do a highlights. I like the highlights because it lets you play through quicker. Well, and you can,
so I'm like, all right,
you can also finish a tournament in like a half an hour as opposed to like 2 hours. It just doesn't take as long. It's insane that they take away all of the kind of control and customization and connection you're supposed to make with the Be a Pro mode. It's the worst Be a Pro mode in any EA Sports game in ages.
You know what I would have taken? Tiger Woods PGA 14 remastered. It would have been great. It would have been fine. Everything would have been copacetic. I would have had tons of golfers, ladies, Masters, everyone to choose from. Instead, I got this, which looks great. It's got a good swing system, but there's just way too much stripped out of it to give it any high praise.
So what are you going to give it then?
I'm giving Rory McIlroy PGA Tour just a 6 out of 10.
I'm going down to a 5 out of 10. Really disappointing. No features, no fun. Stay off the course.
Thanks, boys. The game is out now. And up next, the best part of every episode. It's the Twitter question of the day after this.
If you want more EP, go to our website, epn.tv, for bonus content and full episodes. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Welcome back to the Electric Playground. It's time for our Twitter question of the day. This one is from Rob Kramer at George Kramer 2. He's got two, like the Roman numerals. So maybe he wanted the one, but then he had an extra one?
Yeah, sure. Maybe.
Okay, all right. What are the consequences of breaking a review embargo? Good question. Review embargoes are set in place by publishers and developers that just want to make sure that everybody can review something on the same date.
Yes.
Sometimes it's tied to exclusives that they might have with a different outlet or something like that. And if you break them, you're really just angering a lot of people. It might be that you're angering the outlet that has an exclusive.
But also marginalizing yourself as a, whatever it is, as a news medium, you're marginalizing yourself because we're all kind of falling by the wayside. You're pushing away from everybody else. Like certain outlets do this, and I get really upset.
Oh, that they break when they do break themselves?
Embargoes, yeah.
When
I
they
get
break
really
them
upset.
and
because we're following the rules and they're not.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
Yeah, it upsets a lot of people. Is basically the underline.
I get very annoyed.
Yes. So we try not to break the embargoes.
No breaking the embargoes over here.
All right. Remember, you can get caught up on full episodes and ask us questions for our Twitter question of the day at epn.tv.
We got more coming for you in the next episode of EP Daily. Actually, we're building something good with the creators of Lego Brickymenary.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
EP would like to thank its sponsors, Nintendo, Xbox. EP's mobile coverage is brought to you by Gameloft, makers of Asphalt 8 Airborne, which you can play on your Android or iOS device for free right now.
The most important one to know that's referred to as AFL. This word is AFL, is adult fan of Lego, which refers to this community, which is self-admittedly kind of a geeky community that's grown up around this toy. And the film wouldn't be what it was if it weren't for the AFLs in the film.
Lego.